friends, how's it going? I wanted to walk you through a project that I'm working on, and I'll show you the picture. The inspiration for this project was these containers from Kinsman Garden, and I actually did a video in the fall of inspiration, things that I would love to have in my garden. These are on the pricier side, so I decided to see if I could do it a little bit cheaper on my own. So it's taken me a while. I got the basket and the plants about 2 months ago, and then finally figured out how to put this together. So let me show you a few things. First thing, I have this basket I got at Walmart. I ordered it, and it is a large wire basket. It's a large wire basket. They have a medium size as well. This was the part that took me a minute to figure out. So I have a piece of sheet metal. I will get the gauge for you, put it up on the screen, that I am going to put underneath the basket and on top of the 4x4 post. And then I have another sheet that has holes in it. It's a little bit smaller. That's going to go inside because, as you can see, this has a hole. So what I want to do is put this piece inside so I can screw it down. So I can screw this piece onto this piece and into the 4x4 post so we can secure the basket on there. And I'll give you a closer look at that when we get to this stage. The next thing I have is a jute liner. Actually, I think this is a cocoa core liner that I saved from the wreath project I did in the spring, the violas that I planted up in wreaths. So I had a couple extra of those, so I'm using this, and then I'm going to line the entire thing with burlap to plant into. I also need a good quality potting soil, I need fertilizer, and obviously I need some plants. Now, this is going in the side yard where it is mostly shady, but it does get a sliver of sun midday, so we'll see. Yeah, this particular basket, I don't think we'll get any evening sun based on where we put the post. So that's what I have. Let me start. What I'm going to do first is find the center of this so we can center it on the post. Drill a hole in here. This obviously already has holes, and I'm gonna then put it on the post, and then I will drill additional holes on the post into the metal so we can secure this with like 3 or 4 screws so it's nice and tight on there. I don't want the basket to fall over. This is 12.5. So 6 1/4, and then 6 inches. So 3. So I have burlap kind of covering the entire thing. There's an extra piece here to make sure there's adequate coverage, and then an extra piece here. And as I fill it in with soil, it'll stay in place and stay out. But we'll, have to manipulate it a little bit as I'm planting. My neighbor's air conditioning unit is right there, sitting next to where I'm working, so I am doing a voiceover because this was just really loud. I am just getting started trying to find the center of the 4x4 post and hopefully centering the sheet of metal on there, placing the basket, and then I will get the smaller piece of metal, place it on inside the basket, and screw the whole thing in. And this wasn't a super long process, but I am short, needed the ladder. The post is 48 inches tall, so with the basket on top of it, you know, that's another 18 inches, maybe a little bit more, 20 inches tall. So I definitely needed my ladder. The basket was just wide enough so that I could hold the drill and, you know, center that screw. And, you know, it's just awkward enough to get that in there. I stopped to take a picture after doing 2 screws. I did add an additional 3. And this process repeats until I get all of the screws securely attached to the 4x4 post. Once the basket is attached to the post, now I can go ahead and add the burlap and the liner and get that all snugly put in there. Now that the liner's in place, I can start filling with the potting mix. I'm using a bucket, adding the soil to the bucket and then pouring it in just so I make less of a mess, hopefully. And I'm adding just a little bit at a time. I'm going to then plant that lower level of plants into that potting mix, and then I will add fertilizer. I'm using Osmocote slow release, adding it in so that the plants all throughout the container will be fertilized throughout the summer. Because I only used 1 large piece of burlap, it is overlapping in a couple of spots, so I'm just double checking to make sure there's no major gaps. Now it's time to plant something into this container. I'm starting with a Terrenia and just making the slit and planting it right into the container, into that potting soil I put in the bottom. Okay, now that the burlap is in, I will cut excess at the end, but what you do is create an opening and just put your plant in the side of the container. So this is Terrenia that dried out, I think. It's been in its can too long, but it was a 6-pack, so this one was easy to slip in this spot. So I'll continue around. I'm going to put 4 Dichondra Silver Falls. So I've already created the slit, and now I just need to slide that Dichondra Silver Falls into the container. Now the hardest part is definitely getting it through the wire. Getting the plant really wet, that root ball really wet, helps. And then you have to get up and just make sure it's adjusted and sitting in the potting soil from inside. And getting up that way also helps make sure the root ball is inside the burlap and to manipulate it that way. The burlap is easy enough to recut if you need to, but it's a lot of back and forth, adding soil, continuing the process. So that's the first one, and I'll be back to show you the rest of them. Okay, the Dichondra Silver Falls are in. They're looking good. This was a bit of a challenge, but they're in. Okay, I had to add another layer of potting mix, and now I'm going to add some Osmocote slow release fertilizer. I added clothespins to the top, if you can see, just to hold the burlap in place while I'm working. Once I'm done working on it and there's soil all the way to the top, I can remove those clothespins. And I'm watering in each level as I go. Through the magic of video, I have planted more of the container, And now I'm on the top level. So I'm placing the Terrenia and the begonias. These are nonstop white and a wave Terrenia. And I do love the way that Terrenia looks, and I'm hoping those begonias fill in. I also have a coleus that I'm putting up there. So I will bring you back and kind of give you a tour of all of the plants as soon as I'm done. I did try to lay these plants a little bit on their side so that I can cover them with soil, but that they would still be visible from the sides of the container. So I think that worked out pretty well. I need to add a little more soil to the top, so I'm back to do that, and I will water the whole thing in at the end. Well, I do think the plants look a little beat up from me manhandling their root balls, and the Supertunia bubblegum definitely needs, it's going to be happy to be in soil because it's been in its can entirely too long. So I tried to repeat the plants in both containers. I have a Supertunia Vista bubblegum. I have 2 Terrenia in the top layer. I have 2 white nonstop begonias in the top. I also have a coleus in each of them. And around the outside there were 6 packs of Terrenia and begonias, and there were 2 lobelia in each of the containers. Around the bottom there were 4 Dichondra silver falls, and I added lamium to the top of each container, really as an afterthought because I had them left over. Alright friends, that's going to do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. It's a few days later as I record this outro, and I think this container is filling in quite nicely. It's enjoying, most of the flowers are really enjoying being planted in more soil. So I will continue to give you updates throughout the season, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.